So how did Tanya come to be enrolled in your school?
Tanya's aunt had heard about our school from us when we had gone for a slice of pizza in her pizza store. And she had asked us what we do. And we had mentioned to her that we have 3 young students that we have in what we called a homeschool program. And that we had a tutoring center, and that during the day we would homeschool or tutor these children because they were very behind academically. Tanya's aunt then proceeded to tell us how she has a niece that's extremely behind academically and that has some personal challenges at home, and that if she would bring her niece down to Florida, if we would evaluate her, if Miss Arlene would evaluate her.
Okay, so this is a conversation that occurred when?
Sometime in 2007.
And it took place at Tanya's aunt's pizza store?
Correct.
And who was present for the conversation?
Arlene, myself, and the aunt. Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Okay, was there any discussion about whether the school was accredited?
No, we were not even talking about a school.
Was there any discussion about graduating?
No,
Was there any discussion about diplomas?
no,
Was there any discussion about transcripts?
no.
All right. What was the next communication that you had, if any, with Tanya or her family prior to her enrollment?
I don't recall. I believe she came down for an evaluation, but I don't recall any specifics.
Did you have anything to do with the evaluation?
No,
Were you present for the evaluation?
no,
Did you review the results of the evaluation?
no.
Right. Who did?
Arlene Torres.
Do you know what the substance of any conversations Arlene may have had with Tanya's aunt during that evaluation?
There were definitely no conversations. The evaluation is done just with Arlene and the student.
All right, but did someone bring Tanya to Arlene for the evaluation?
Yes,
Who?
I would have to assume the aunt because we never knew the mother.
Okay, so you don't know what conversations may have transpired between them in the course of bringing Tanya to the school for the evaluation?
No,
That's something that you believe Arlene would know?
I believe Arlene might have her memory. It's almost 10 years, but she might have some sort of memory, maybe not specifics.
Right. Do you recall any other communications with Tanya or her family prior to Tanya enrolling in the school?
I recall one conversation.
What were the circumstances?
The aunt had mentioned something that Tanya had some problems of an emotional nature and a physical nature back in West Virginia.
And this was before Tanya enrolled in the school?
Yes.
And what were the circumstances of this conversation?
Just a quick question. Am I violating any privacy laws by disclosing any of this information?
No.
Okay. I was asked to leave the room because Tanya's aunt wanted to describe a sexual assault to Arlene, and you know, I got up and walked out because I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to be in the room at that point,
When did this conversation occur?
prior to Tanya being enrolled in our school.
And what were the circumstances of it taking place?
I'm sorry, I don't know. Could you rephrase it? I don't understand the question.
Why were you having this conversation? Who had requested the meeting?
The aunt, Tina.
All right. So the Aunt Tina had requested a meeting for which initially you and Arlene were present. Anyone else present?
No.
All right. And when the topic became, as you just described, you felt you needed to exit the room, and the conversation proceeded ostensibly with Arlene, correct?
Correct.
All right. Was there any discussion of the school, its accreditation, its curriculum, graduation, anything of that nature during this conversation?
We were not a school, we were a learning center, so there was no expectation or discussion at all.
So that would make the answer to my question no.
Correct.
All right. Prior to Tanya's enrollment, were there ever any other conversations with Tanya or her family in regards to the...
No.
Okay. So, it's your testimony that prior to Tanya enrolling into school, that the only communications were with Tanya and Tanya's aunt. Is that correct?
Correct.
And there were no communications with the parents. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that would be true for oral and written communications?
Yeah, we were told that the parents don't speak English.
Okay, and who told you that?
The aunt.
And that the topics of conversation in any of these communications, to the extent that you were present for them, were as you've described and no other topics. Is that correct?
Only other topic would be the lack of academic progress that Tanya was showing.
And when did you discuss that?
It was discussed in that meeting.
Well, what would be that meeting?
The meeting you're referring to regarding after the evaluation when I walked out when they were discussing the assault or alleged assault.
Okay. With regards to Beatrice Garcia, what were the circumstances of her becoming enrolled in the school?
To my recollection, she was brought in by her grandmother. We were told that she was living with her grandmother as her guardian, and that we were told by her grandmother that she was not doing well in the school that she was in, and she was not attending school at all, and she was very depressed, and that her grandmother felt she would be a good fit in a smaller environment.
And when did this conversation take place?
Before her enrollment. I believe it was around 2008.
Who all was present for this conversation?
Arlene and myself.
Anyone else?
Not to my recollection.
What about Beatrice? Was she present?
I don't remember.
Were there any other discussions with either Beatrice or any member of her family or before she enrolled?
Not that I can remember.
Did she talk about accreditation?
No.
Did she talk about graduation?
No.
Did she talk about diplomas?
No.
Did you have the understanding that In Beatrice's case, the grandmother was representing the parents and enrolling the child in your school
Representing the parents, I didn't hear the rest.
in her decision to enroll the child in your school.
Yes.
And in Tanya's case, did you have the understanding that the aunt was representing the parents in choosing to enroll the child in your school?
Yes.
Did you have an expectancy that the grandmother in Beatrice's case and the aunt in Tanya's case would be responsible for passing along your communications to the parents?
In Tanya's case, yes. In Beatrice's case, no. We were told the parents were non-existent in Beatrice's life, so we had no expectation of her passing along information.
But you did have the understanding that the grandmother was empowered to act on behalf of the child?
Correct.
When these students first enrolled, did you explain that you were not a school to the students and grandmother and the aunt?
We explained what we are. We didn't explain what we're not.
So you didn't tell them you were an unschool?
We may have told them we're an unschool, but that is what we are. That is not what we're not. If that makes sense.
What I'm trying to say is, did you clarify for the parents
What we do?
You must let me finish my sentence. Did you clarify for the grandmother, the students, and the aunt, look, I don't want you to be misled here. We're not a school. We're just a learning center. Did you draw some kind of distinction between the two and explain it to them what the difference was?
We explained what we do. We explained that we have small student to instructor ratios. We explained that we fill in the gap. We explained what we do. We didn't explain what we don't do.
All right, so the answer to my question is
yes.
no.
The answer to your question is yes. We explained what we do.
That wasn't my question. Would you please read back my question? Did you clarify for the grandmother, the students, and the aunt, look, I don't want you to be misled here. We're not a school. We're just a learning center. Did you draw some kind of distinction between the two and explain to them what the difference was?
If they signed up, and I have to check the exact dates by the time before we had signed up with the Department of Education, I most certainly would have done that. If they signed up after the point where we signed up with the Department of Education, then we were a school.
Well, when did you become a school in your mind?
When we became a school and we met all the criteria for the Department of Education.
When was that?
I don't know the exact date, but I can get that for you as well. And I believe we may have given it to you in your information as well.
So your testimony is that whether or not you characterized yourself as a school and differentiated between a school and a learning center would depend on whether or not the state of Florida had as yet recognized you as being a school.
Well, when the state of Florida recognized us as a school, we were a school. I guess before you're recognized from the state of Florida as being a school, I don't think you can tell people you're a school.
It doesn't, this is going to take a very long time if you continue to answer questions of your own choosing instead of the ones that I put to you, because that's just not going to work. I'll just keep asking it. Can you read back my question?
The one I already read back?
No, the last one. whether or not you characterize yourself as a school and differentiate it between a school and a learning center will depend on whether or not the state of Florida had as yet recognized you as being a school.
Yes.
Can we go off the record?
Off.
It's a few minutes before noon, but I have arrived at a natural breaking point. So
Okay.
if you're planning on having lunch, this might be a good time to do it.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to go much past 1-ish. So maybe it makes sense for us to keep charging till I reach the point that my fever keeps it.
Are we going off the record or on?
I thought we were off the record.
We are. I just didn't know if we
We're
were
gonna
gonna
stay
stop.
off the record, I think is what you do.
Well, the thing is the next area probably going to be on for hours. So I really don't want to get in the middle of it and stop.
Well,
Maybe just, I mean, if you're only going to be good for another hour, maybe we should just reconvene another day.
So, yeah, we can do that. Now, talking about depots, you know, you have parties to this case who live out of state, and this is a Florida case. So
Yeah.
they will have to come here. I haven't had anybody try to set any of your people first, but we will at some point, so.
I understand. Well, I mean, cross that bridge when we get to it.
All right.
Okay, listen. I'll schedule this. Now, I don't want to reschedule it for like December. I mean, I'm
Rusty, we've been working with you. We haven't had a problem getting
I'm just-
bids.
The only thing I do want to tell both of you, which you're not aware of, is we are dealing with a few medical issues. So if ever you hear we're saying that my client, I just want you to be aware of that. Thank God everything worked out today, but it's been very touch and go with our parents, and it just happened to all hit at the same time. So, yeah, just to let you know, we're not playing, we want to be here, we want to get this over with, but if he tells you, we are dealing with that.
all right, well, contrary to some people's belief, I'm not an ogre.
No, and I know that. I know that. I just wanted you to know that.
All right. Listen, just do me a favor, and it'll save us all a lot of quarreling and money. When you come back, go over those areas of examination and be
Listen,
ready.
we may stick Arlene in for an area if she's the more.
Better suited to answer, yeah.
All right.
These are mine, right?
I mean, theoretically.
those are hers.
I know what you're
Those are
saying.
hers? Okay.
Let me just clarify something. The ones that have green stickers on
Are
them,
hers.
those are the official record, and
Okay.
they belong to the court reporter.
Okay.
The ones
Well, I
that have
think
little, for the courtesy copies that I gave and
Sorry
scribbled
about
little
that.
numbers, you can keep those.
However, you see, I've taken a picture of every one of these things, not every page of them, but I know exactly what they are, so you may have them.
Okay.
Thank you.
And, okay.
Do you want to put anything on the record?
Mr. Jarman.
Yeah, just back on the record. Due to a number of issues, one of which being that my opposing counsel is ill, we have agreed to adjourn the deposition for now and reconvene it, in the reasonably near future for its continuation.
This works. All right, guys.
Okay,
Off the
thank
record.
you.
I'll be fine.
Feel better? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Good to see you.